Caroline Rothstein is a New York City-based spoken word poet, journalist, body empowerment advocate, and arts educator. She performs, speaks, and facilitates workshops at colleges, schools, and organizations nationwide, and hosts a widely viewed YouTube series entitled Body Empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, please give her a round of applause.
So the arts educator in me that facilitates workshops and cares deeply about creating safer spaces, because there's no such thing as a safe space, because we are all subject to not having our strongest moments. So I'm going to change my set to honor the poem we just heard and start with what was going to be my second poem to continue this dialogue. So, So I'm a white Jewish female, and when I was in college in Philadelphia, I started unpacking what privilege meant and understanding the intersections of when we can be both oppressed and have spaces of privilege, or what parts of our identity are marginalized or told they're not worthy, and what parts of our identity have privilege. And as a white Jew, right now in 2015 in America, it's a little complicated because anti-Semitism is inflamed quite heavily in Europe, and yet black men are being murdered by police more than we realize, and trans folks are being killed more than we realize. And so I'm constantly aware of my white privilege. So I wrote this poem many years ago, and it feels important to share it now. My fingers dipped in pixie dust the moment I was born. And even though my parents infiltrated my soul with a belief in equality, and even though I'm ethnically baptized in Judaism, I bear an altered version of Midas. Everything I touch is white. And I can wear Birkenstocks and jump left foot with every game of political hopscotch. I can plaster my backpack with buttons and patches to color my skin. I can teach for America with my intellectual feminist kin, but I'm slowly becoming the problem with racism. I once rode the subway past my 40th and Market stop in West Philadelphia just to see. And I felt like I was riding the monorail in Disneyland, penetrating society with the ideals I claimed to speak against. I spent too many years in suppression, pretending I had nothing to do with oppression. But no matter how many racial profiling incidents I protest, I'm still a product of dominating manipulation and superiority inflation. So I'm unlocking the door to the enemy from within, to let the aversive racist layer match the color embroidered on my skin. See, this is what they teach you in activist school. Perform corrective and cosmetic surgery on any racism by covering it up with white liberal euphemisms. Don't notice that she's Latina. Don't notice that there are so many East Asians studying the library on Friday, and don't notice that the car passing me at 2 a.m. is filled with black men, and don't notice that every other poem I hear from a white liberal female is about how she tutors some poor black child and never expected that he'd teach her anything worthwhile. And don't notice that we too own the oppression that we claim to be above, and I keep thinking about race as I write this poem. I keep thinking about race everywhere I go as some incarcerated racism that tries to penetrate my soul, vacillates to my exterior to taint my tone. And I want to use metaphors like shackles and chains. I want to use metaphors like blood-stained shame, but those aren't metaphors that I'm allowed to own. So I'm trying to surrender my own linguistic reign. I'm trying to remember what I learned from where I came, but I keep thinking about race, I keep thinking about race, I keep placing myself like MLK as a pedestal of egalitarianism, when instead I keep becoming the Caesar of imperialism. I'd be lying if I said the internal antagonism isn't painful. I'd be lying if I said that white guilt and privilege isn't a complicated handful, but I'd be lying if I said I was perfectly honorable. I'm gonna have to let the whiteness surface to permeate my skin, to just accept the racism that's hidden deep within. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to share 2 more poems with you this evening. This next poem, one of the things I think is so incredible about religion and faith is that it is a language we each have an opportunity with which to speak to the universe. And we all speak to the universe or God or whatever it is to be mortal differently, and whatever it is to understand immortality differently. And for me, I was born Jewish, and I also feel like I choose to continue to be Jewish because it's a language that works for me. And one of the reasons it works for me is because it has informed my activism and my desire for social justice and change. And also, I feel like there's a saying that Jews do death and weddings really well. And so I really dig how we do death, which is a really awful thing to have to cope with. But when it's happened to me all too many times in my life, I've been grateful that it's the language I have in my family and community to cope. So 13 years ago, my brother was hit by a car and killed. This poem is not just about him, it's about all of us, all of our lives, all of the lives that we have to be. We have so much work to do. It's a beautiful world, and it is also a world that is afraid of itself. So he just bought a pair of shoes. $100 sneakers, shopping bag clad right hand, he walks down Central Street in Highland Park, Illinois, a brand name sidewalk with affluent stores. He knocks on the pharmacy door window for a bag of pretzels and a Gatorade, but they wave him away. It's 4 p.m. on a Sunday, and they're closing up shop. A senior at his high school pulls an illegal U-turn. An elderly man stops short to avoid collision, skids onto the curb, and throws my brother into the side of a store building. His head cracks open, his eyes close shut, and his sneakers fling into the air as his spleen develops cuts. They do brain surgery, put him on respirators. Rabbi Mason prays by his ICU bedside, but he never wakes up. I'm crouched over his bedside, begging him, yelling at him, "Josh, wake up, Josh, please wake up." He was only shoe shopping. Walking side by side, teenage girls that purchase emaciation on a hanger, which is really just a metaphor for shirts sewn in sweatshops by starving children. And studies say that executing killers costs more than keeping them in prison for the rest of their lives, and funeral prices are on the rise. Cremation packages start at $2,000. The average casket is $6,000, $28 a month to purchase an orphan on the internet. $13 for a Japanese picture bride to weed the fields and strip sugarcane. Not too much for a mail-order bride. Choose her body shape, her nationality, and human pedigree. And since this is an unregulated business, I don't have fancy statistics to insert here about how many women are bought by strangers yearly. As you get a price check in aisle 5 to bargain lives that further judge when they die. My family goes to trial so the killers can pay for our loss in insurance. There's no way to judge, but the judge sits there asking me, how much was his life worth? My 15-year-old brother had $25,000 in savings for selling Beanie Babies at 100 times their cost on an eBay auction block, $650 to purchase an African teen on a southern auction block. How much is a life worth? We purchase human beings from fruitless trees. We consume material and will them to our offspring. We hang child labor on mannequins. We dangle death next to cash registers. We kill children in storefront windows and judge their worth in finances. Even though the only bank in heaven is a locked vault of karma. The only currency in heaven is a set of intangible beliefs. The only worth in heaven can't always be proven. How much is a life worth? He was 15 years old, walking happy on a sidewalk. He was 15 years old, shackled, standing on an auction block. He was 15 years old, starving, sewing in a sweatshop. How much is a life worth? Josh, wake up, Josh. Please wake up. How much is your life worth? It's worth waking up daily to face the misery of death's reality. It's worth becoming straight edge to never miss a single moment of sobriety. It's worth my living breath to overcome death. Josh, you are what my life's worth. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here today. Thank you to the Desmond Tutu Center. Thank you to these incredible artists. I'm so inspired to be amongst you all. I wrote a piece for today, and I don't know, I've never shared it like this, like memorized like I did on the plane today. So we're gonna see how it goes. When I knew I was coming to Indiana, I was super hyped, and then a few weeks later, it seemed like Indiana was all over the media based on the recent legislation that allegedly has been reformed. We shall see. So I care very deeply about supporting the LGBT community, and a few months ago I read an article by a transgender Jewish professor in New York who wrote about looking at Torah through an LGBT lens and considering God as queer, and it changed my life and totally liberated my language. And so this is my new piece. My God is a queer God. My God is a queer God, is a queer space, is a safer space, is in allyship with the universe, because my God is self-reflexive, and my God knows that it is not always a safe space for everyone at every moment. So my God knows that it may be an ally to one entity and a trigger to another. So my God is working in solidarity with everything all at once, and that capacity does not fit inside a body box. My God is outside the outside of a timeless clock. My God is indefatigable. My God is intersectional. My God is awake and alert and stays woke because it once created the universe and still encompasses the earth. My God knows that it is not always seen as a God, that not everyone blesses how it transforms day into night and back and sometimes forward. And my God knows that it is questioned and doubted and questioned and shamed and pushed back and called out and called in again. My God rocks with transformative justice. My God knows that restoration doesn't do enough in dismantling injustice. My God knows the difference between prefix and suffix, because my God invented Latin and language and knows that even language has repercussions, and even language is transgressive, and even language is transgressive, and even language doesn't properly contain substance, because there is no way to properly contain and concretize linguistic justice with substance. So my God is transcending and transubstantiating substance. My God is nameless. Thou shalt not speak my God's name in vain, and speak my God's name to be anything other than other without any name, because my God is a holy, 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 intangible, amorphous entity of limitless possibility, infinity, tranquility. My God is a queer God, and my God is eternity. Thank you so much.